Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector. And I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This live stream is on the tail end of a live stream that I did for the first time on Instagram TV earlier today with Ralph over at No More Mutants. We had a fantastic conversation that was facilitated by the guys over at IG Comic Store. Ralph and I had an opportunity to come together. We had never even spoken before, never had a conversation before, and we had, I'm gonna tell you, a fantastic conversation about House of X a short while ago. So if you are on Instagram, I encourage you to swing by his channel. Check out that live stream that we did on IGTV. The dude has a depth of knowledge about the X-Men that I found impressive. I really did. But we had a conversation. So if you guys get a chance, check that out. But I was still in a talkative mood. I was in a talkative mood after that conversation with Ralph, and decided that I was going to eat some food first, and then I was going to go live here on YouTube to kind of follow up on a couple of things that we talked about over on his Instagram page, and just to mix it up with you guys a little bit. Maybe we'll show some books that literally just were on my porch a few moments ago. We may show some books related to the X-Men, but we are going to spend a little bit of time just kind of talking about House of X, speculating on what the future holds for the X-Men. So say hello to some comic book swoljers before we get started. Party Time Comics is in here. It's a party, y'all. Stacy's Weekly Comic Book Plus is here. Tina is in the house. How you doing? Brian Bigelow is here. Steven is here. WIS Comics is in the house. Jason is here. Kyle, that is the best last name ever. His last name is Simmons. Kyle Simmons, I salute you, my friend. He says, long time no see. Haven't been able to catch you live in a while. Been out training nonstop. Well, I'm glad that you are able to make it today. I hope that we have a good live stream so that you enjoy yourself. ICT Vinny is in the house. Rag 718 is here. It is good to see all you guys. And I definitely want to thank you guys for spending just a little bit of time with me. There were actually a healthy number of people on the live stream that I actually did with Ralph over at No More Mutants on Instagram. And there were some comic book swoljers there. There were comic book swoljers that are here typically with us on YouTube that were over there on Instagram checking that out. So that was really cool to be able to cross pollinate, if you will. Hey, you call me. ICT Vinny is hilarious. Vinny, we just can't name you. We can't dub you a Simmons, my friend. We just don't hand that accolade out to anybody. But so I had an opportunity to read House of X, and I actually read it on Wednesday. And I wanted to go live on Wednesday, but I had a cousin in town. My cousin, who I really haven't connected with like as an adult ever, right? He's younger than I am. He lives on the East Coast, and we've never really connected as him being an adult, you know? And so he was in town. He called me up. He said, yo, I'd like to meet up with you. So we got him out here to the house, and we spent about 4 hours talking. And after that conversation on Wednesday, I'm gonna tell you, I was all talked out. There was no more talking me on Wednesday after 4 hours talking to my cousin. And I had meant to go live that day to talk about House of X, and it just didn't happen. And then today was very hectic. And then Brent over at IG Comic Store hit me up while I was out with the wife, and he said, would you like to jump on and talk about it? And I said, yes, because I've been waiting for an opportunity to do that. So I am now here on my own channel to spend a little bit of time talking about this. So Grant says, Reggie, I've been subscribed for like a month now. He says, when am I going to get swole? Grant, it doesn't work that way. No, brother. No. I can call you a comic book swojer, but you can't necessarily get swole without going to the gym and eating lots of food, which has been my problem because I haven't been eating and I haven't been going to the gym. So I may have to change my name. William says House of X did an amazing job laying the groundwork. I haven't been this intrigued about an X-Men book for a long time. Well said, my friend, because I think that many people are basically saying that. Friendly Neighborhood Luke is in the house. Welcome to the live stream, my friend. So The thing is that Marvel is a money making entity, and that money making entity does a really good job of hyping things up, of doing promotions to raise the awareness and the profile of things that they are doing. They do a very good job of that. And oftentimes, what happens is the hype machine does what it's supposed to do. And then, the thing that you are hyped about doesn't live up to the expectation. And I think a lot of people were very fearful of that with House of X and Powers of 10. I think people were very fearful of that. But I'm going to tell you that Marvel's hype machine did not overhype this title. They did not overhype it. This title is official. It really, really is well done. I have read it 3 times already since Wednesday. I have read it 3 times and I absolutely love this comic. I think that the X-Men are back. I think Jonathan Hickman is a talented, talented man. I am excited about the X-Men like I don't think I've ever been outside of the 90s X-Men. And I was excited because I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? And Jim Lee was doing the art and Chris was writing and supporting Jim. And I was excited. But I'm gonna tell you, this title is really, really well done. And what I think, Gene says, hey, Reggie, read it too. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. I think what's really great about what this title does is that it acknowledges things that came before it in a very good way. It honors those things that came before, but Jonathan is taking the X-Men in a different direction. He is taking the characters, he is taking just the whole thing about the X-Men to a different level. And he is in some cases filling in the blanks on some things that we didn't know about. He is adding to certain things that we assumed. I mean, it is just really, really well done. So Comic Pen, my man, is saying, I don't know Jonathan Hickman's work that well, but I love what he's doing. What a change up. ICT Vinny says, I think Hickman has something to do with Marvel underhyping it. Yeah, maybe. So here's the thing. Ariel's like, I'm at the gym getting swole and listening to the live stream at the same time. Party Town Comic says, while reading House of X and when reading the Magneto lines, my mind was shaking to hear. Okay, there we go. So here's the thing. I want to talk just a little bit about this within the context of what we did on Ralph's page, which I think was just brilliant on the part of Ralph and Brent to focus on the interstitial pages. And the interstitial pages are basically these monochromatic in some ways, black and white pages that Jonathan Hickman inserted in the story, where he would show panels like you normally do in a comic, and then he would have this interstitial page. I, by and large, am a person that does not read these pages, right? I typically skip over them and focus more on the dialogue and the images. But in this case, I read them. And in this case, I'm glad that I did, because each one of these things was powerful from the very first one. This is the very first one. And it actually says how humans of the planet Earth, while you slept, the world changed, Professor X. Now, if you know anything about Professor X and Magneto, you would, if I read that to you and did not tell you who wrote it, you would probably say that Magneto said that. This, humans of the planet Earth, while you slept, the world changed. Just from the tone of that is a Magneto thing, right? Magneto has always been we are superior to man. We need to be separate from man. We cannot be one with man. We need to have our own thing. And Charles has been more like, hey, let's hold hands and let's be one. And yes, we are different, but we are all the same, right? When you read this from the very first interstitial page basically says that the tone of the X-Men is not what it was in the past. It is not. And then the thing goes on where you actually have Magneto show up, and Magneto's like, yeah, I'm here to meet with you because Charles is doing more important stuff. I'm here. And when you see this, what you then come to the realization is that Magneto and Charles are now together. And these guys have been friends for a very long time. They've been friends, they've been enemies, they've been friends, blah, 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 blah. But it's very clear from the beginning of this that they are on the same team, to the point where you have Charles Xavier sounding like Magneto. That is a huge change. So we have some new people here. Chris is here. Ruben is in the house. Who else? Jumanja? Maybe I'm probably butchering that, and I'm apologizing. So here's a question here. One of the questions here. Hold on, let me see. Let me see. Make sure I read these things in order so I don't miss anything. William is saying, yes, dude, the X-Men feel dangerous. Yes, they are definitely dangerous. There's no more Mr. Nice Guy here. I mean, they're still pleasant. Like if you look at the exchange between Cyclops and the Fantastic Four a little bit later, yeah, it's still a friendly conversation, but there was tension there. But from the tone of Charles Xavier, this is not your grandfather or your father's X-Men. This is some new stuff right here. And here we go. There was another comment here. There's a question here from Gemma. Jim, I'm just going to say Jim, Jem. I'm going to call you Jim. Is basically asking, is Professor X still in Phantom X's body, or is this a young Charles Xavier? Yes, it is still Phantom X's body as far as I know. And I don't know how he got into his body because I'm still catching up with some of the old X-Men stuff, but that is still Phantom X's body from everything that I hear. And yes, Clay, House of X is out this week. I was at the comic shop at 11:15 on Wednesday to pick up my copies, and I was pumped to read it. If you guys get a chance, you definitely want to check it out. Chris Barrett is asking whether he can be a Simmons. Chris, I like you. You have a fantastic sense of humor. You are dubbed a Simmons. A Simmons, yes, you are. So another thing that really jumped out at me is that the X-Men, and we talked about this, and let me just say, there are spoilers in this, right? There are spoilers because these are my thoughts about the House of X, right? These are definitely spoilers. I apologize if I ruined this for somebody, but there are spoilers. All right. So what we talked about this, we talked about the island of Krakoa, and I highlighted for you guys the Journey into Mystery, the Krakoa issue that had come out. I think it was a one shot. And my thought when I was reading this book right here, The Seeds of Tomorrow, was that Krakoa was going to take, and that Krakoa is the island that is in Giant Size X-Men #1. My feeling was that Krakoa was going to take a very prominent role, and that indeed proved to be true. And I made some statements around the fact that this might be the new mutant homeworld, right? And Seeds of Tomorrow kind of illustrated that. So I wasn't like completely making it up. But basically what Charles Xavier and Magneto and the others have basically done is formed a nation state. They are forming a nation state on the island of Krakoa, and they are basically saying, we are a nation state and we want the countries of the world, the powers that be, to recognize us as a nation of mutants unto ourselves. Yes. And what they are doing is that they are using their natural resources to basically get the nations of the world on board with this idea of the mutant homeworld. They are basically saying, we have natural resources that we are going to exploit for ourselves in order to get you, United States, China, everybody else, to recognize us as a nation state. It is really, really powerful. And what's crazy is that these flowers that are grown and produced on Krakoa do a couple of things. These flowers are being synthesized and turned into medications for humans. And there is one, and again, all of these are pills that come from flowers that are on Krakoa. And these things basically produce drugs that extend the life expectancy of humans by 5 years. Take this pill, you'll live 5 years longer. This is a product that is actually being grown on Krakoa and then turned into a synthetic drug by Charles Xavier and his company, where he bought some pharmaceutical company. The second drug is actually, I can't even read this tiny writing on this thing. This is the one that's an antibiotic. It's like a universal antibiotic, right? So if there's something that is ailing you, take this antibiotic. It wipes out illness. And then the last drug is one that wipes out any kind of mental illness. So you can live longer, you will have less disease and less mental illness. Take these drugs. These are produced by us. This is our power, and we are willing to share it with you if you humans recognize us. And they're basically saying, hey, we want you to recognize us, and you don't really have a choice. you will recognize us. And then there's other flowers that are actually grown, and some of the flowers are like gateways, right? So basically, there are two endpoints where you can have a gateway. You have one that is in Jerusalem or other parts of the world, and they tie back to a central hub, and they also tie back to Krakoa, the island itself. And then there's another flower that is actually like a habitat, right? It is an environment that is created that is tied back to the island of Krakoa. And then there's a third type of plant that can be grown that is basically like a dark zone, right? It is part of the island, but the island itself does not see it, right? So it's like a habitat, but it's a habitat like in isolation. And so that is one of the interesting things that I don't know where they're going to go with that. I don't really know where they're going to go with these no place flowers is basically what these things are going to be called, which I think is really, really interesting. Scrolling through some of the comments here, House of X says Carter Lee was an incredible read. Can't wait to read the rest of the titles. Same here, my friend. Someone says like a biosphere, potentially, right? A self-contained kind of thing. Omega Comics says he picked up Journey into Mystery 1, The Birth of Krakoa. I read it. It wasn't a great read. It was an okay read that provided me some context and texture as to what Krakoa was. And I found that helpful, but it was not a good read. I'll just be honest with you. It was not a good read. But what's interesting about this, if you guys can see this, that the little hieroglyphs that you see here is actually a mutant language. Basically, mutants have developed their own language, which I think is fascinating. And there's a part of the book that basically is like, humans can't read this, but if you are a mutant, this is embedded into your cerebral cortex, and you can actually read this hieroglyphic text that basically is a language. Fascinating. Magneto's like, yeah, well, we are a species, and a species has its own language and its own culture. Deep. I'm telling you that is deep. And this is, again, some fantastic work that Jonathan Hickman is doing. The hieroglyphs, the language, the tone, the texture of this thing is really, really well done. They own their own financial resources, because without the resources, then you can't be a power. And if your resources are natural and they're only found where you have access to them, that gives you an incredible amount of power. Steven is saying, so happy that the X's are getting some love. Brother, the X's, and you know this, right? I'm not trying to correct you. The X's have always gotten love, right? What they're getting right now is love and attention from Marvel that allows us to love them even more than we always have, right? Because people are like, where are the good X-Men, right? We were getting X-Men all along, and people would read it and kind of like, it's okay, at least it's an X-Men. This is really, really well done. It is really well done. I mean, this is really smart stuff. So scrolling through some of the comments here, Chew is like, finally made it to a live stream after a long time. Brother, you used to be here all the time. KJ used to be here all the time. So welcome back, man. It's definitely good to see you. Omega Comics says the House of X has changed the game in all areas of comics. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And it is fun to see. You know, people will poo-poo modern comics, and they will say that they're not what comics used to be. And there's maybe some truth to that, right? I think anytime you speak in absolutes, then it's really tough, right? You could say that maybe the writing was better, you know, by large, but there's still some good writing that is happening now. There's still some good art that is happening. But what I see happening with this title is that you can't read this and you're like, this was garbage. You cannot deny it. You look at this, you look at Immortal Hulk, you look at Venom, they're starting to actually put out some really good content. You know what I'm saying? And it's fun to be a part of. Xavier is acting like a cult leader in this book. He will make a good villain, I think. So ALD Collects is actually pointing out something very, very fascinating here. In the early panels of House of X, there is a scene where it appears that mutants are being born out of some pods that are part of the Krakoa Island. And they were emerging from these pods and they are reaching up for Xavier, a young Xavier reaching up for him almost as if he were a messiah. And he says, "To me, my X-Men." That's a little creepy. I mean, it's a little creepy. And then he's wearing this helmet where you can't see his eyes. And the helmet almost makes him look like he is wearing a mobile cerebro to amplify his power. This right here is fascinating. This is a fascinating thing. It is a young Xavier in Phantom X's body, and he is wearing a helmet, and it's interesting. And he almost, to someone's point, ALD, he is almost acting like a cult leader. It is fascinating to watch. Fascinating to me, my X-Men. So here is some John is basically talking about, have you guys seen that someone's cracked out what the symbols are? So yeah, what I heard is on, I think it's CBR, someone has actually taken the hieroglyphs and actually deciphered them and converted them, I guess, to English or something like that. So I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I'm going to have to find some time to do that because I think that's dope. There is a nerd out there that I absolutely respect because that is the nerdiest thing ever. It's like, you know, being able to speak Klingon. That is a new level of nerddom that I respect. Solar Flare. Let me scroll through some of these comments here. Chaos Lord, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Omega Comics is basically saying the top Marvel runs right now are Immortal Hulk, House of X, Daredevil, and ASM. I think you got to throw Venom in there, bro. I think you have to throw Venom in there. And the fact that you and I can sit here and have a debate about the best Marvel runs right now is saying that maybe Marvel is doing something right. Let's be honest. I think that if we can sit here, because I've heard nothing but great things about Daredevil. I've never read it, but I've heard really great things about Daredevil. And again, there is starting to be a pattern here. As much as we bash Marvel with the variants that they do, they are starting to do some. They're starting to do some interesting things. Let's put it that way. Let me plug in my computer here before we go dark. So one of the other things that I really liked about what Jonathan Hickman is doing is on this interstitial page right here, he is talking about Omega level mutants. This is not a new concept. Omega level, Carter is saying ASM is a toss up. I would agree, bro. I would agree that ASM is a little bit of a toss up. There is some stuff that is good. There is some stuff that is not. Some of the art is good. Some of it is not. Yeah, so I would agree with that. Omega level mutants is not a new thing. We've always known that there are Omega level mutants. We've always known that Magneto is one. Franklin Richards is one. Storm is one. Recently, more recent than others, I think Iceman has become one. But what Jonathan Hickman does in these interstitial pages is he actually provides context for what makes someone an Omega level mutant and not. And I think that was really, really well done. So he basically is like, hey, compare Magneto and compare Forge. Both of them are at the top of their game in terms of what they do, right? Forge can, I think, adapt to any kind of technology. He can figure anything out from a technological standpoint. I actually dig Forge back from the 90s, have his first appearance in the bins behind me. You have Magneto, the master of magnetism. Both of them are at the top of their game. But what Jonathan Hickman is basically saying is that Magneto is unsurpassed by anyone else. There is no one else that can do things as great as he can. And we also can't measure the upper limit of what it is that he can do, right? So he is Omega level. Unlike Forge. Forge is great with technology, but Forge could get a run for his money when compared to Tony Stark or to Reed Richards. Both of those individuals are genius level and great with technology. So you can kind of start to see that, okay, Forge is top notch, but he's not Omega level because you have other people that potentially can or have already surpassed him. No one is moving asteroids and planets the way that Magneto is with magnetism. And so I think that that was really well done to provide us with context as to who was and was not. And then they go on to actually highlight some of the Omega level mutants, one of which is Kid Omega, and Kid Omega is going to be on one of the X-Men teams, which I think is really dope. But then he also provides some context around the fact that you can have an Omega level mutant that has multiple genetic mutations, and only one of those mutations will make them omega level. And so you have, of course, like Jean Grey, for example, who is both a telepath and also has telekinesis. And it's only her telepathy that is omega level. Her telekinesis is not omega level. And I don't know that I realized that. I assume that if you were an omega level mutant, you were all omega level, right? Regardless of your mutations or the different types of powers you had. If you have multiple, I assume all of them were omega level. And that was a great point of clarification by Jonathan Hickman. Again, some texture and context that we did not have. Chris Barrett is talking about Emmett Frost and Magneto. Like, I don't know that Emma Frost is omega level. And if she is, correct me. I don't remember seeing her name on the list. Rye is like, Reggie is an omega soldier. That's what's up. You're awesome. There was someone that asked here, Terry's basically saying, man, I love Immortal Hulk and Venom, but Hulk is my favorite run in comics right now. I do believe the fact it's ending in 4 issues is quite depressing. First of all, you just ruined it for me because I did not know that it was ending in 4 issues. So Terry, we should talk after the live stream. No, both of the runs are solid, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. Immortal Hulk is dope. Immortal Hulk is really, 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 really well done. I was a little bit of a Hulk fan back in the 90s, but I'm digging the Hulk. I am digging the Hulk. I am also I've never been a big Venom fan. I dig Venom now because of the texture that is being added to that character. And again, pay tribute, pay homage to what came before, but make it better. And that's what these writers are really doing. And they're doing really, really well. So Hickman's use of iconographs in House of X is dope. Yes, it is dope. Yes, it is dope. It is super talented. Someone asked a question about my favorite mutant. Oh, here we go. Logan. What's up, Reggie? How you doing, my friend? He says, who is your favorite mutant? Honestly, I think my favorite mutant's probably Wolverine. I mean, just being honest, I've always been a big Wolverine fan ever since back in the day. I'm a big fan of Wolverine. Not the biggest fan of Cyclops. But definitely a Wolverine fan. If I had to pick between those two, if there was like a battle or an argument, I'm Team Wolverine. Team Wolverine all the way. Slim has never been my favorite. Never, ever, never, ever. I like Forge. I think Forge is a cool character, so I dig him. I dig Gambit. I don't know that I would call him a favorite, but I definitely dig Gambit. I dig his attitude. I dig his powers. I like Bishop. I think Bishop's cool back from the 90s. So hopefully that kind of answers the question here. So let me scroll through some of the comments here. Reggie is an Omega soldier. Omega Comics, History of the Marvel Universe. I heard about that. I need to pick that up because when I was on this live stream on IGTV earlier with Ralph over at No More Mutants, he mentioned the History of the Marvel Universe. I did not pick it up, so I'm going to try to snag that so that I can check it out. Omega Comics is saying Immortal Hulk is not ending, so I'll let you guys debate that one. I'll let you guys fight that one out. I had not heard that. Chris, you're a nut. Chris is saying, Emma Frost is an Omega level mutant when it comes to having my heart. Brother, let me find out that you have a poster of Emma Frost on your wall. We're going to have a talk, my friend. That's all that I am saying to you. Clay is saying Cyclops has been getting the shaft since the late 80s. And what was it? Avengers versus X-Men. It was what came after the 12-part series. They did not make Cyclops look good. They did not make him look good at all. So, all right. Mr. Espinosa is like, he's on board with Wolverine. He is on board. So, I think I'm gonna wrap that part up. So, House of X, I'm telling you guys, if you have not had a chance to read it, if you were on the fence, if you were debating it, I definitely want to encourage you to just pick it up and buy it. There was some people that hit me up on Instagram that said, the House of X was sold out in their area. I talked to the guys over at IG Comic Store, and what I've been promised is that they're going to try to share with me a couple of readers' copies of House of X, and I believe Powers of 10. They're going to try to get me some readers' copies. If I get these reader copies, I'm going to try to pass them back to the community. For people that, could not pick up a copy, didn't want to pick up one, waited too long, got a really nice copy, and sent it off to CGC or got a slab copy. My goal is to get some copies from them and to share them back with you guys. So definitely stay tuned to that. Make sure you stay, check out the community tab, because that's probably where I'll post some of that stuff up. But next week it is going down. It is going down to Omega Comics' point here that Power of 10 is next. And I'm going to be honest with you, I cannot wait to read it. I think what we may end up doing is I may end up going on No More Mutants channel on Instagram again next week. And then we may have a conversation there. And then we may finish up with the conversation on my channel, where he will join me and possibly Brent from IG Comic Store will join me here on the channel next Thursday. So we're going to see whether we can make some magic, see if we can make that happen. Because I had never spoken to Ralph before over at No More Mutants until earlier today. And we had a great dialogue. And now that we're kind of jamming, we're like, well, maybe we should connect again. So we're going to see. Wolverine is the babysitter. Yeah. Oh, Jim, you are a nut. Chris says, I don't have a poster of Emma Frost. It's of an Iron Man in Avengers 3. All right, I respect that. Chuck, how you doing, man? Chuck, it's good to see you, my friend. Chuck hooked me up with Space 99. I'm on season 2 digging Space 99 on YouTube. So if you guys remember that from back in the day, I am definitely enjoying it, enjoying the bell-bottom pants that they are wearing in Space 99. So I want to show you guys a couple of books. I picked up a couple of X-Men related books. I think all of these books are undervalued, potentially underrated. Will these books go up in value as a result of what is happening with House of X and Powers of 10? I don't know. Could these books go up in value if these characters see their way to the MCU? I don't know. Have some of these books been enjoyable for me to read? Yes. Have these books had me, have additional context for what is happening right now with the X-Men? Yes. I'm going to show you these books to bring some awareness to some of these books. I am not saying go out and buy them. I'm saying, hey, here's a cool book you might want to think about, right? So this first book is Excalibur #1. This is Excalibur. This, I think, is the first appearance of Excalibur. This one was actually done by Chris Claremont back in the day. This one literally just showed up a little while ago. What makes this copy of Excalibur really special is that this one does not have the price up here. There is this is the more rare first appearance of Excalibur that does not have the date up top. There are a couple of different copies. One has the date, and that's a first print. I think if it's $3.25, it's the first print. If it's more than that, like $3.50, $4.25, then it is a second print. But I found this on eBay the other day, and I actually picked it up. So definitely a really cool book. Not the best read. I'm gonna just be honest with you. Not the best read. Yeah, let's leave it at that. But it is a cool book. Excalibur is going to be one of the X titles that actually gets released in October of this year. And so that's part of the reason why I picked it up, just because of that. This next book here is Miss Marvel #16. This is actually the first appearance of Raven. And Raven, I think, is who Mystique is. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around Miss Marvel 16, 17, and 18. This one I think is Raven out of costume. Then it's like a cameo of her in costume. And then it's the full appearance of her in costume or in her blue form. I think that's the way that it goes. But I picked this one up, 16. I think I'm waiting on 17 or 18 or both. I can't remember because I've been ordering a lot of stuff. But definitely a cool book, not that expensive. And this is actually a pretty clean copy that I was able to pick up right off of eBay a few days ago. So the next two that I picked up is New Mutants 18. I actually snagged 2 copies of that. This is actually the first appearance of Warlock. I don't think he's a cyborg, but it's like the techno Warlock, not Adam Warlock. So definitely a cool book that I picked up, and I snagged 2 copies of it. One is better than the other, which is part of the reason why I snagged 2. And then the very last book that I want to show you guys is this is actually the first appearance of the Stepford Cuckoos. The Stepford Cuckoos are basically part of, I think, the Weapons Plus program. They were designed to be clones of Emma Frost, aka Chris Barrett's girlfriend. and something went wrong. So instead of being individually powerful telepaths, they collectively form a hive mind and are super powerful as a unit. And so I believe that this is the first appearance. I've been going back reading some of these older issues. I think I've read like 115 through like 120 or something like that. This is hard. Grant Morrison is a hard guy to read. I'm going to be honest with you. The art also isn't very good, but I believe what is happening here is that Jonathan Hickman is actually leveraging some of the things that Grant Morrison laid down in the new X-Men. This is new X-Men number 18. He is leveraging some of the things that Grant Morrison did, and he's making them better. So that's part of the reason why I picked this up, because this is actually the first appearance of the Stepford Cuckoos, and I believe that that also is an undervalued book. So there you go. Did I? Clay says, Reggie, you sent me New Mutants 18 earlier this year, bro. So I'm gonna be honest with you, Clay. I was looking for that book in my bins like nobody's business. And I was like, I know I have this book. Now I know that you have my book. This is what happens when, you know, you give away a lot of stuff. You end up giving away stuff you actually need. And this is not the first time. I have gone to my bins to look for books before, only to realize that I had given those books away. So Clay, you are welcome, my friend. You are welcome, my friend. He says, I have so many copies now. Send my copy back, bro. No, send me a 9.8 back. I'm joking. I'm totally joking. Urban Video Plus says Captain Marvel wasn't as bad as people made it, but it is one of my least favorite MCU movies. Yeah, that's the thing, is that there was someone posted on my page earlier today. I think it was earlier today. Said, why do we need Captain Marvel? I said, the person said, why do we need Captain Marvel? We have Captain America. And I'm like, so for one, those two things are not the same. Just because they both say captain does not mean that they are interchangeable. And so I kind of had to explain, but I think this was a person that had heard a bunch of the negativity surrounding the Captain Marvel character, that they were just saying it without really understanding that character and that character's history. The fact that that character goes back to 1968, I don't know that that person actually knew that. You know what I'm saying? Urban Video Plus, I think you're doing the right thing by evaluating that movie for yourself. Evaluate it for yourself and decide if it's garbage or not. And I've heard people on both sides. Some people are like, it's garbage. Some people are like, it's not that bad. Some people are like, you know what? It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. And at the end of the day, if you can watch it and you enjoy it, then it's a win. If you can buy a comic and you can read it and you can enjoy it, that's a win. So with Morrison, you have to read the whole run and read it to try to get it all. Yes, Mr. Espinosa, you are probably right about that, because as I started reading it, it was rocky. And the more I read it, the more I kind of got what he was saying. But literally you can go from this panel to this panel, and they be right next to each other, and he will make a jump right in the middle of that gutter between the two panels, and you will be like, what just happened? What happened between here and here? He makes jumps sometimes, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I think I'm a smart guy, but I think he's so creative that he isn't able always to explain what he's trying to do, even to the artist. And I think the artist sometimes might actually get lost. And so if the artist gets lost, what chance do we as a reader have? You know what I'm saying? I think the dude's talented. I think that he sometimes makes jumps where he leaves people behind. You know what I'm saying? I want to read something and I want to take away the meaning from it. And if I read it again, I want to take away additional meaning. I don't want to have to read it multiple times to understand it. You know what I'm saying? That to me as a writer is not good, right? As a communicator, I like to communicate very clearly so that you understand what it is that I'm trying to say, you know, but not to take anything away from him. I could probably not write a comic book. I'm gonna just be honest with you. So shout out to Grant Morrison. If he's watching this, he's not watching this. Dead Guy 33 says there's some really cool stuff in Morrison's run, but it doesn't deserve the amount of hype it got. Some of the art is just really ugly. I think that is really detrimental. I'm gonna be honest with you, because there is a lot of good stuff that he did in his run. That if you pull up Key Collector app, he has some keys in there, but the art is awful. The art is awful, and that's a bit. I mean, look at the cover. Look at the cover. That does not say buy me. That does not say buy me. That does not say, hey, this is a really good story. It does not say that. That says, hey, here's a sketch of a really poorly drawn Slim, aka Scott Summers. That's what that says. You know? So I think that's one of the great things about House of X and what appears to be happening with Powers of 10 is that Marvel is putting a super talented writer with a really talented artist or two, and they are cranking out some really good stuff. You need the art, you need the story, you need it all to come together at the same time, because that's where some magic can be made. So scrolling down through some of the comments here, 409 G Money says, what do you think about ASM 361 worth right now that the second Venom movie? I haven't looked at the values of 361 in a very long time. My guess is that the prices of that book are either flat or potentially increasing because of the expectation of what is going to happen with Carnage, and probably the belief that people have that Carnage is going to get his own movie. So I don't know. My guess is they're either flat or they are increasing. Probably what will happen is when the movie drops, when the first trailer drops, what typically happens is the price of the book dips down just a little bit, but I'm not really taking a look, honestly, at ASM 360. So you have my apology for that. But if you want to talk more about it, definitely hit me up and we can talk more about it. Parasitic Symbionite, how you doing? It is good to see you. Regie, I'm the one that told you about the story about my Kirby cover art. Oof, you got me. You got me. You have me at a loss, my friend. I do not remember that. You honestly have my apologies. I don't remember that one. But if you reach out to me and remind me, then I'll remember. Omega Comics is like, Regie, grab that History of Marvel Universe. It's an eye opener. I will definitely do that because I definitely want to check it out. I think you're now like the third person has actually told me about that. So I'm actually going to check it out. Perry Comics. So first of all, Perry, don't come on this channel talking stuff about Marvel, bro. Okay. I don't come on your channel talking about independence. Okay. Don't cause trouble. We believe in civility on this channel. Is not civilized, my friend. Shout out to Perry Comics. Perry is he is not a Marvel guy. I think he's more of an independent guy, but we still like him. We still like him nevertheless. If you guys get a chance, check out Perry Comics. Definitely a good dude. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Chaos Lord says, the only reason I watched Captain Marvel was to see the Stan Lee cameo. Brother, I respect it. You cannot go wrong with the Stan Lee appearance, my friend. Scrolling through Geek Aficionado talking about the artist artwork on X-Men. It's tough. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Too many fill-in artists. Yeah, Chuck is talking about too many fill-in artists. You know, I guess that's one of the things, right? Is why didn't he have a better stable of artists to pull from? I don't know. I don't know what was happening at the time, to be honest with you. I wasn't even reading comics at that time. So, but definitely some disappointment there with the art. And I think, again, Grant Morrison has some really great stuff in his run on New X-Men and X-Men, but the artwork just falls down. The artwork is just really, really awful. Matty Joe, Reggie showing his heart for Marvel and X-Men. I do have love for my X-Men. I love Spidey. You guys know that, but I do love the X-Men. There is no doubt about that. Logan says the only MCU flick that was really disappointed in was Iron Man 3. They messed up the Mandarin. Never you worry, because the Mandarin is coming back. The real Mandarin will be back in what is that? What's that guy's name? Shang Yu? No, whatever that is. That the Kung Fu guy. Yeah, he'll be back. The Mandarin, the real one. Oh, Perry Comics is saying, I love Marvel, just needs something good from them. Bro, we gave you something good and you didn't like it. Perry Comics read Immortal Hulk and did not like it. I can't help you. No, Immortal Hulk is good. I think Venom is good. People are talking about Daredevil. Amazing Spider-Man is okay. The House of X is good. The House of X. What's great about it is that you don't have to know anything about the X-Men at all to be able to read it and be like, I got it. I can now move forward with issue 2 and know what's going to happen, right? That issue was a great fundamental issue for people that are trying to get on board with X-Men. It is very foundational. It is very informative, especially because of all the interstitial pages that they dropped in there. These interstitial pages are fantastic reading that tell a reader a lot of what they need to know. The interstitial pages embellish the dialogue that is happening on the page, but it also lays a foundation for you better understanding the X-Men and what is coming from future issues. It really does a really good job. So Chaos Lord says, like I said in one of my comments to one of your earlier videos, Marvel's best chance of getting me to buy their books is to have good stories with good art and not 14 gazillion covers on the first print. Yeah, brother. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And I think my comment to you was read House of X. Read House of X. It is really well done. I can't speak to the number of copies or the number of covers, the number of variants. I can't speak to any of that. Can't speak to it. But what I will say is that if you have an opportunity to read it, I think you'll enjoy it. If you don't get a chance to pick it up, I will send you a reader copy. If you remind me when I get my reader copies from IG Comic Store, I will send one to you, my friend, KX Lord, because I want you to read it. And I want you to get on board with the X-Men. Maddie Joe says, what Immortal Hulk is amazing. Tell that to Perry Comics. Shang-Chi, thank you for 09 G Money. Perry Comics, Maddie Joe has said it. Immortal Hulk is amazing, and I have to agree. Urban Video Plus is saying Marvel's been releasing some great books lately. Sure, they will still release some duds like those Age of X-Men miniseries, but Venom, Immortal Hulk, ASM, Guardians of the Galaxy, Daredevil. Yes. And again, we talk poorly about Marvel a fair bit. Too many variants, poor paper quality, all that kind of stuff, right? We talk bad about them, but when they do something right, I think it's important to speak about that as much as you do the negative things, right? I wish that Marvel would do some things differently. I wish they would take some notes from DC, but let's be honest. They're on a roll with some books right now. We can sit here and we can have a debate about Daredevil or ASM or X-Men, Immortal Hulk or Venom. What that is saying is that they are putting out some good content. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. And people cannot say that modern comics are garbage. Modern comics, as evidenced by the debate we are having here, they're not garbage. They're not garbage. There is some good stuff out there. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Chaos Lord says, I'll get one eventually. Everything passes through my hands. I respect that, brother, because that is well said. That is well said. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Maddie Joe is saying, Kate on Guardians of the Galaxy is a really good read as well. I have not read that. There are many things I have not read just because there's only so many days. There's only so much time. And I'm reading things from the past to try to, help me with the future. But again, I think that the fact that we can sit here and name off so many, books that are modern and so many writers and stuff like that, I think that that is a fantastic thing. So anyway, I actually have a nice stack of some Spider-Man books sitting next to me that have just arrived, along with some of these X-Men books that I just showed you. I was going to show them to you guys, but we've gone on a little too long here. So I'm actually going to hold off and I'm going to release them as part of another video at some point, possibly next week or something like that. I want to thank you guys, though. If you could give this video a thumbs up, but I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me a little bit. I want to thank you for mixing it up with me. I love these live streams because there's so much energy. There's so much fun that we get to have when you guys just pop in and I play off of you and you play off of me. We have a good time. And I hope that you guys enjoyed yourself. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel for whatever reason, I definitely want to encourage you to do so. That way you can stay abreast of like all the content that I release on a weekly basis. If you like podcasts, be sure to check me out on your favorite podcasting service. Doesn't matter whether it's iTunes, whether it's Google Play, whether it's iHeartRadio or Podbean or whatever. I am probably there. And there is 400 other people that have actually joined the podcast and are listening to some of the content that we put out on a regular basis. More to come. We're probably going to do more of that. But don't forget that I am doing a 4,000 giveaway subscriber contest right now. So I'm going to be giving away a really cool book back to the comic book community, a book that came from the community. I'm going to give back to the community very soon, possibly towards the end of this week. But if you guys need to get in touch with me, feel free to do so. You can find me on Instagram at Regie Collects. You can find me on email at regiecollects@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter. I don't really do the tweeting thing very much. Instagram is definitely my preferred. But if you need to reach me, I am not too hard to find.